Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 513 Sports Attack.
I'm Nick, and with me, as always, my partner in crime, Cory.
What's going on?
Not much, man. I'd like to start off here just by talking about Antonio Brown for a second. I don't know what it is about him right now, but he's definitely making some bonehead decisions. You're currently in a lawsuit with the NFL for a grievance over $39,775,000 from the Patriots and Raiders for being cut by week 3 of this year. And now you're out there refusing to pay a $4,000 moving fee from California to your home in Hollywood, Florida, and then beating the delivery guy, the mover. Like, well, what are you doing? You're literally in the middle of a lawsuit against to the NFL to get money, and then you're gonna go out and violate their personal conduct rules by beating a mover who you hired to move your stuff from California to Hollywood, Florida. Like, what are you thinking?
He's not. That's what he's doing. He's not playing football. He's not thinking. He's just being a bonehead. Just doing things that he feels that he can just get away with because he's Antonio Brown. That's what he's doing. And is it bonehead? Absolutely. Is it stupid? Absolutely. And I don't agree with anything he's doing. The way he's going about it is he does not care anymore. He says he's made enough money and that he's not going to play in the NFL again. And I'm not really...
Well, if you made all that money, why aren't you paying a $4,000 moving fee? Seems a little odd that you wouldn't just pay that to me, if you have all this money that you're not trying to go back to the NFL. And I really think part of the reason he's filing that grievance is so that he can get money, because he's probably going broke. And you want to know my honest opinion about it, Cory, I think he's going broke. You see a lot of this with a lot of athletes. Marshawn Lynch, even in an interview, said, "Kids, take care of your money. Save it. That's the reason I came back, was because I needed some." I mean, again, Marshawn Lynch, great point. Love that point there. Antonio Brown, it's obviously people looked up to you, kids looked up to you, and to kind of go out the way that you did is just kind of sad. Well, and then on top of all this, now there's reports coming out that people in his private gated community that he lived in are fed up with him and have been for months over, what's been going on at their home, the police interactions that they've had there with him. These people spend a lot of money to live in these gated communities, and they don't want disturbances. That's why they live there. And all he's doing is being a disturbance not only to now the general public, apparently, but also to the entire league. There's a reason why you were cut by the Patriots. They stuck by Aaron Hernandez until he was indicted. And here you are, it was an allegation. They're like, no, we're separating ourselves from this immediately. There's a reason, and this is why, is because the way you act, Antonio, the way you act and the way you carry yourself is the issue. And you need to really seek some help, sir, because you're heading down a dangerous path.
I really couldn't agree more. He's got to get his act together if he does enjoy or even want to play football again. Anywhere, at any level, he is going to have to take care. Yeah, he's going to have
a job within the sport.
Right. He'll be anything. He'll have to get his act together, and I do hope he does, because he is a great player, was a great player. And, but obviously he's always been a little bit of a nutcase, head case. So, I kind of think sometimes those things kind of catch up with you, and it's just sad.
See, you know what? I don't mind being the hot case on the field, but don't take it off the field. Antonio Brown when he was playing, he was the best wide receiver in the league. I know you had him in fantasy for a lot of years, Cory, and I remember we were watching one game. He had 50 points without even catching a touchdown. Name one other wide receiver that would do that. You can't name many that have done that. You know what I mean?
he's one of the best receivers in the game. So when you talk that stuff on the field and you say, they should give me the ball more, I get that. Because when you're on the field, you're the best receiver in the game. But now when you're out here making a fool of yourself in the public, that's where everything becomes an issue, and that's why you don't have a job right now. Because you don't know how to carry yourself. This is my opinion.
Again, I couldn't agree with you more. I really hope he gets his act together, because there's probably some place for him somewhere in the sport of football if he can get his act together.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, even his agent said, hey, until you seek help, man, I'm not representing you. Good luck finding somebody who will. That should speak volumes to you right there if your own agent's telling you, hey, I'm not dealing with you.
Right, absolutely. Cutting ties, obviously, as we've kind of spoken about. So moving on from one star receiver to another star receiver who has, it's not really shocking, but he does play for your Cleveland Browns, Odell Beckham.
Yeah, he is actually when he did his little slap on the ass to that cop, security guard, whatever, law enforcement, if you will, he was, recently actually said that he is not filing charges against OBJ. So, hats off to that guy because, I mean, it was a slap on the ass. Like we said before, it wasn't like he got socked in the jaw. You're in the locker room. That could have been any player that could have done that. It just happened to be OBJ. So, I like that. But he also had core muscle surgery recently, too. So I hope he, gets better.
Again, Odell Beckham Jr., You already draw enough attention to yourself. I think, obviously, the cop did the right thing, in my opinion. Like we said, it was just kind of a little love tap, not anything too serious. But the one problem I do have is, why would you put yourself in that situation? You know the camera is on you. You know that everyone's watching. Why are you even putting yourself in position to be talked about? That's the problem I have with it. But again, hats off to the guy, to the security guard. No need for that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's pretty much it. Honestly,
But I agree with you when we talk about, his actions, always wanting to be kind of in the media, if you will. You see that even when he goes onto the field. He tries to violate the NFL conduct or the uniform policy or, whatever have you. It's like, dude, just follow the rules. Why? And people are like, when he wore that $400,000 watch during a game, like, why are you doing that? You're only doing that to get attention. You're an attention seeker. And some guy in this Browns group I'm in goes, what besides, what were the things that really was distracting in the locker room from OBJ? And all I could say was, did you even watch this season? Did you even pay attention to the Browns season this year? Everything he did was a distraction. If it was on the field or off the field, like you buy a Bentley. Yeah, that's cool that you made it Browns colors because you're now a Brown. That's awesome. But again, that's just to get attention. Wearing a $400,000 watch during a game. Attention. The visor thing, I get. People wear darker visors. That was a little ridiculous. But then again, he turns around and tries to wear different cleats that were not authorized to wear by the league. Why are you doing it? Just wear what's authorized. Same thing with Antonio Brown. Wear the helmet. They did it for a reason. Just do it. You're getting paid millions of dollars. Just like I wore a school uniform when I was in high school. Didn't want to, but you did it. You know what I mean? Just follow the rules. It ain't that hard.
When you make that much money, it's almost like they get like they're entitled. Again, doing unnecessary things for unnecessary reasons. Okay, cleats, I think the NFL, I think there should be that's unnecessary. Obviously I understand that, but I think, again, it's very unnecessary for the league for cleats. But watch, I mean, if he wants to break a $400,000 watch by getting tackled on it, I mean, that's his prerogative.
But
I think,
why are you even wearing it?
Right, it's unnecessary, it's drawing unnecessary attention. Play football. Play the game that you grew up loving. Play for the game. Don't play for the money. Play for the game. Don't be a show-off. Act like you've been there before.
Because you know what? As we were watching this movie earlier, or a couple of days ago, The Replacements, Core, every athlete dreams of a second chance. And I'll tell you what, there's athletes out there that are working their butts off just to get into a training camp in the NFL. And you know what? One of them might surprise one of these teams and becomes, one of the great receivers in the league. And all they're doing is they're appreciative that they got the shot, and here you are making a fool of yourself. Who do you think a team's going to want to have on their roster? Guy making a fool of themselves, being an attention guy, wearing $400,000 watches on the field, making a fool of themselves at their alma mater's championship game, passing out wads of cash? Or the guy who's back home working out, improving himself, not being a fool, not in the media? Who do you think they're going to want, Core? I'm taking guy B.
Absolutely. B is the guy you want. Obviously, Odell Beckham, take nothing away. He's a great player.
Phenomenal.
Antonio Brown, great player.
Phenomenal.
But you set yourself up for failure, and you set yourself up to be in a really bad spot by doing these things.
100%. And another person to bring it up, Baker Mayfield. You just had one of the worst seasons probably of your entire professional career, and you're not even going to hang out with your throwing coach this offseason. Not even going to work on your mechanics. What are you doing? You haven't earned anything in this league. You think Tom Brady, during his prime, wasn't working out in the offseason with his throwing coach? Do you think Peyton Manning wasn't doing that? Do you think Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, Brett Favre, John Elway? Corey, we can name all the great quarterbacks. Dan Marino, Steve Young, Troy Aikman, Bradshaw. You don't think those guys weren't working out in the offseason, making sure that they were ready to come into the year?
They absolutely were. They
Right.
absolutely were. And, I mean, obviously, that's, just
Because
the person you are. That kind of is your character. It has nothing to do with anything else but your character.
Right.
It's 100% you saying, okay, I think I'm good enough. I don't need to do this. And that's when your body, that's when you get injured. That's how you don't make the plays you should. That's how you get rusty. All of those things happen. And in the NFL, it's all about chances. And if you take advantage of your chance, you'll do great things. If you already have that chance and you don't care because you know you're just outright better, that's when you open yourself up to losing your job and finding your way out of the league. So
Johnny Manziel.
Don't take advantage of it. That's simple. That's the lesson. Be humble and take advantage of it.
If you guys haven't noticed, we've spoke a lot about character so far in this opening segments of our show tonight or today. We've talked about character. And character means a lot, because even if in our everyday lives, you run across a guy who's a show-off, doesn't act right, you don't want to associate yourselves with him. What do these athletes think that, because that's what these teams are. They're businesses. You think the business, that looks good on the business's end, that your franchise quarterback's not working out with his throwing coach? No. Makes you look like a joke, Baker. That's what it makes you look like you're a joke, that you're out there, oh, I'm getting paid now, I'm in the league, this team, they're not going to give up on me. Baker, newsflash, we've had more starting quarterbacks in the league in the past 20 years than any team in history in the NFL has had. Okay? The Browns aren't afraid to move on from somebody. Another thing, speaking about character now, Core, the KU in the end of the Kansas game last night. Poor character judgment. Again, just a poor character judgment. You had, I don't know if you guys have seen it. If you haven't, look up the clip. But basically what happened is Kansas State's down by 22. Final seconds of the second half. Kansas is dribbling out. Kansas, probably a backup Kansas State guy, steals the ball going in for a layup. I'm not a big Kansas. I don't know much about Kansas State basketball, so I'm assuming you're down by 22. You're not having your starters out there. So probably just a backup, just trying to make show his coach that he's playing hard till the end, until that final buzzer goes off. and Jesus or De Sosa.
Silvio De Souza.
De Souza, yeah. Runs down, blocks a shot. Hey, great effort. I like it. But then what happened after is your character. What we've been talking about, the character moment. When you stand over the guy and you flex on him. Right on top of him, you flex. Dude, what are you doing? Your team's up by 22 points. You block the shot. You don't need to throw your muscle. We've already done that all game for 40 minutes. And you sit here and do that, and then a brawl comes out. Character.
And you know, there's no room in the game for that. Absolutely no reason. I've watched the clip. I did not watch the game live, but I did watch the clip. It's very disgusting. For basketball, that's very, very bad. It's very disgusting. It's very unfortunate to watch, and I don't like it. It's a very big problem, and I really have a very big problem with it. You know, obviously the NCAA did not take any time. They looked into it, and they basically have given out. So De Souza, who was the worst of it, obviously, is going to be suspended for 12 games.
Good. Should be the rest of the season for that, especially the circumstances your team's up 22 points.
100%. I disagree with 12. I think it should be the rest of the season.
Including madness.
There's nothing. That's the season. There's no reason for it. It is unnecessary. Now, blocking the shot, great effort. You want to flex? That's fine. You flex, but not while they're on top of the guy. No chance. That's absolutely uncalled for. In addition to De Sousa's suspension, you also had Kansas's David McCormick, who received a 2-game ban, and Kansas State's James Love will miss 8 games, and Antonio Gordon will miss 3. Now, again, I'm not a huge Big 12 basketball guy myself. However, Kansas is usually in the top 15, top 10 teams in the country. De Sousa's been around at Kansas for a little bit. He's a very solid player, so I think that's going to hurt them a lot. Again, I think it's one of those things that it's a big loss for Kansas because that's someone you don't necessarily rely on heavily. But he's a big-bodied guy who can rebound in big games. In big games, 100%.
Key role player is what he is.
As for David McCormick, Antonio Gordon, and James Love, I'm not familiar with them, but I'm sure at some point, somehow, it's going to affect Kansas State as well, and you kind of. A part of me, just as much as I'd hate to see it or say it, a part of me is like, I kind of hope both teams don't make it to March Madness. Because there's no reason for this kind of conduct in the NCAA. In basketball in general.
Basketball in general, right. The NBA stood up for it when the Pistons-Pacers brawl broke out, and it went into the stands. They laid the hammer down on Ron Artest, if you remember. Rip Hamilton, I think, was involved in that. Some of you youngsters out there, if you're listening, may not remember that. Look that clip up on YouTube if you want to see a basketball fight. That was ridiculous. But you're right, Cord. There's just no place for that in the game of basketball. Actually, there's no place for that in sports. You know, at the end of the day, like we've always said, it's a game. You understand both teams want to win, but it's just a game. You know, that's all it is. Stop fighting. There's just no place for it. Obviously, there's a place for it in hockey because it's allowed, which is, awesome. If you want to see that stuff. I personally, when I go to hockey games, I kind of want to see a fight just because it is legal in hockey. Why not? That's part of their sport, though. But there's just no reason for those types of brawls to happen. Very, very shamed to watch that clip. I expected Kansas, a historic basketball program, to hold themselves to higher standards, and you thought that would be coached. You don't see Duke players doing that with Coach K. Roy Williams players don't do that.
Now again, I don't want to say anything towards Bill Self. Again, obviously it's a character issue. Obviously D'Souza's act was clearly something that started it. However, take nothing away. It was unnecessary for the Kansas State guy to steal the ball as well. Now, I'm not saying that starts it or ends it. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is before you attack the coach, you really, the players are the ones who make the plays. You expect the coach to make sure that does not happen. However, tempers run high, especially in a rivalry game. Things happen. Now, granted, no room for this in basketball, but don't go attacking the coaches just because of that.
Well, look, man, just hear me out for a second, though. But that's part of coaching, telling your players keep your cool in the heat of the moment. That's part of it. Now, Kansas' historic program, and again, going back to the character, I would hope that they, I always assumed that they always held themselves to higher standards than the rest of the Big 12 and their basketball recruiting. Because we've seen them pass up on top talent because of bad character. I guess it's just sad to see this type of thing happen at Kansas, if you will, because they've always been a historic program, maybe a team I'm not always rooted for, but they've always been a historic program. They've always carried themselves well, so it's just very sad to see in the sport. Another sad thing to see in the sport is the NBA All-Star Game that's starting up. Those starting lineups were just released here, Cory, this week. Why don't you take us through those starting lineups?
Obviously, first I want to talk about the All-Star Game before we kind of go into those lineups. I kind of just want to talk about it for a second. Obviously, I have a very big problem with how the selection of the All-Star Game is. In my opinion, it's a popularity contest.
100%.
Just like it is in the Major League Baseball. It's a popularity contest. Obviously, I understand LeBron is well-liked, and obviously he's the number one vote getter. I get it. Giannis as well. They're top vote getters. I get it. I understand it.
But they would be all-stars without the votes.
Exactly. So I think you that's exactly. You have to take into consideration some of these guys. For instance, in my opinion, Luka Doncic deserves to be the West captain just as much as LeBron James does. Now, granted, LeBron was the number one vote getter, so obviously he will be a captain for the All-Star Game.
He's going to be a number one vote getter every
year.
Every year that he's playing. I agree with you. I don't like that selection process. And I agree with you. Luka should be a captain. Should be the captain, in my opinion. He's having a great season so far, putting up numbers that we've never seen at somebody his age before in the NBA. That says something to me. Maybe since Kobe and LeBron, when they were that age, but I mean, that was 15, 16, 17 years ago. I mean, for Kobe, that was 20. Over 20. That was 23 years ago when he was around Luka's age 20 years ago. So I agree with you. I don't like the selection process. Also, one thing I don't like about the All-Star Game, it doesn't mean anything. Why am I watching it? The NBA, or not the NBA, the MLB, the winner of the All-Star Game gets home field advantage throughout the World Series. Gives you a reason to watch it.
I like the All-Star Game. I like there's no defense. It's flash, highlight. Is it unnecessary? Absolutely. But in terms of an actual, time for that, it's one of those things where I'm just like, I like it. I just do. I don't know why. I like a 150 to 149. Sometimes it's 170. I like it. Off the backboard alley-oops. I do. I really do like it. And so, obviously, talking about it here, they've announced the starters and the pools.
Hold on a second. Before we get into that, I'd just like to retort your opinion there. You're right. The flash, all of that's great. in the All-Star game. But we saw that flash when Jordan and all them played, and when the game meant something. I would just like the NBA to implement what the MLB does. Hey, once you're in the championship game, whichever conference won the All-Star game, that's who's going to have home court advantage for the championship. Not the best record team or anything. Which conference won? Because you're the better conference at that point. Your All-Stars versus their All-Stars. If your All-Stars win, you should have that home court advantage. Why not? And you could still have all the flash. You could still have all the flash, no defense.
Yeah, I agree. And honestly, you do get some defense in the fourth quarter. In the fourth quarter, you do get the defense. So that's helpful. But, again, I've always liked the game. I just don't like how it's picked. Obviously, the starters, they haven't announced the reserves yet, but the starters, obviously, you're missing a couple people due to injuries. But, your starters, you've got pretty much everyone you would expect to be there. So if you start with the East, the starter pool. Here's the starter pool. Kemba Walker, Trae Young, Pascal Siakam, Joel Embiid, and Giannis. The West, you have LeBron, James Harden, Anthony Davis, Kawhi Leonard, and Luka Doncic. Now, in my opinion, Anthony Davis would not be a starter. He's missed some games. Anthony Davis is a starter because he plays with LeBron James, in my opinion. Now, take nothing away from him. He's a great player, and I enjoy watching him. However, obviously, the West is obviously, in my opinion, the person right now that you would be taking out would be Anthony Davis, and you would be inserting Steph Curry if he would not be hurt. Because Steph Curry, vote-getter-wise, would be past Anthony Davis. So that does help. Someone else you're kind of missing here.
I would like to.
Someone else you're missing here, obviously playing alongside James Harden, it hurts, but you're also missing Russell Westbrook. There's not a lot of talk about him, but he hasn't had as great of a season because he plays with James Harden.
What about Damian Lillard, Portland? Why can't he be in the starter there instead of Anthony Davis? That's what I just don't.
There's a couple. There's always, but again, there's
No.
always going to be those players. There's
Right.
always going to be those arguments every
Paul George,
single
you
year.
could put Paul George.
Every single year, you're going to have the same arguments. So
but
it's kind of one of.
But out of the East core, as we're talking, who would replace? I can't think of. I could think of one player I would put in the East over, like a Trae Young, a Kemba Walker, a Pascal Siakam, and that'd be Jimmy Butler. He's a phenomenal player. He does. I would put him as a starter on my Eastern Conference team if I was making that list. Personally, I know that's my opinion. I don't know about you, but I would put Jimmy Butler in there over a Trae Young or Kemba Walker.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see that. Obviously, Trae Young having an unreal season. I think he's deserving there. Pascal Siakam has really burst on the scene since really loading it up in the finals. But, again, it's the one person I look at, obviously Ben Simmons.
I was going to mention Ben Simmons.
Ben Simmons, you could see him. I think Ben Simmons is more deserving than Joel Embiid.
100%.
So I'm just, it's again, popularity contest, who gets the most votes. You're always going to have the same two right now. As long as Giannis is in the East, he's always going to be the top vote getter in the East, honestly. So that's really kind of how I feel about it. The West, LeBron will always be there as long as he's playing. Obviously, the one person I thought that you might see just because everyone was so hyped and loved him was Zion, but he obviously was hurt and didn't play that much. So obviously, All-Star game should be kind of fun.
Speaking of, yeah. Oh, I mean, it's a fun game to watch. Don't get me wrong. I love watching the dunk contest and all that, and the 3-point contest and stuff. But I just wish the game meant more. As a fan, to watch these players go out there and actually play for something. I think it'd put more importance on it. I think you would honestly get more viewership too. But speaking about the rookie phenom made his debut last night for the Pelicans. That good old Zion finally made his debut. Dropped, I think, 21 or 22 points. Scored 17 straight. I think everybody looked at Zion and said, "Yeah, you're the real deal now. Like, we saw you play. You're coming off of that rest, man. You're the real deal. Going out in your first game, 22 points mid-season."
See, again, wonderful, phenomenal performance as a first game. I'm going to pump the brakes a little bit. I think he's a great player. He's got great hops, great ability. He finishes well around the rim. I agree. I think he's going to be a phenomenal player in this league. However, my feelings is he hit 4 3-pointers. Is that something he can do consistently? Is that something that will consistently be a shot that will be there for him? If that is a shot that will be there, he will be a lot tougher to defend than most people thought, than he already was. I think I got to wait and see a body of work more than just one game before I expect it. Again, I think he is an up-and-coming player. However, I think it's too early to basically say, you know what, he's great. I think you have to. He has the potential to be an unreal talent. 100%. There was no doubt about that. There's a reason why he was the number 1 overall pick. But I've told you this, and this is something that I've kind of kept my eye on. I've told you this. Zion Williams is a great player. Take nothing away from him. But out of the two, if I would have had to pick one, I almost would rather have RJ Barrett.
I could see that. I could definitely see that, but I don't think you need to pump the brakes on Zion. The first assist he had in his NBA career, he got the ball in the corner, turned around, one-handed bullet straight to Ingram for a dunk. We see veterans don't make that pass. I think what is going to carry Zion, not only his talent, but his size in this league. I like to, you know what I think of him, Core, when you say like a dominant player, you know who he reminds me of? Like a shorter version of Shaq. Somebody who could just throw his weight around and he's just super talented no matter what, though. You know, like he has the talent, but he's going to throw his weight around. And you're going to feel it. Not only that, he could jump out of the building. But to your comment, though, on RJ Barrett, I definitely could see, wanting RJ over Zion. Zion has shown that he is definitely injury prone. And you know what you're going to get out of RJ. I do think RJ is a more defined basketball player at this point in their careers. But Zion just has all the talent and the, in the physique, in the physical ability that you just can't not go with him. You know what I'm saying? But I get what you're saying. It would be a tough decision. If I was sitting there last year in the NBA draft looking at Zion or RJ, who do you take? Personally, for the reasons I've already stated, I would have taken Zion. But I definitely get where you're coming from taking RJ.
Yeah, again, it's toss-up. I just think RJ Barrett has potentially a more longer career just because he's a shooter. Yeah. Now, take nothing away. Zion has the potential to be, that the Draymond Green factor for that Pelicans team, more athletic.
Way more athletic.
But again, we're going to have to see the consistency of Zion Williamson on the defensive end when they pull him out to the three-point line. Is he going to be able to consistently guard? And that's something just to kind of keep an eye on.
Definitely. I don't disagree with you there. Well, Cor, let's move on here to our new segment, Corey's Weekend Watch.
Yeah, so,
what do you have for us?
A lot going on this weekend. Not as much as last weekend, obviously, with the UFC fights last weekend, but we've got some new things going on in the sports world this weekend. So a couple things to watch. You've got the Australian Open, the tourney down under. Obviously, the major fires happening in Australia, so obviously we hope everything's out there, but it does look like it's finally clearing up. Obviously, you've got all the major players in play. Obviously, Serena Williams is in play as we speak, obviously on a Thursday night. You've got, obviously, Federer, you've got Djokovic, you've got Nadal. You've got all of them, everyone you want. Wozniacki is performing for the women as well. Obviously, you've got Barty for the females, who's the number one player. You got Sloane Stephens. You've got all of them in play here, and that's going to be a fun thing to watch, kind of as the tournament continues to roll. Who continues? We'll see what happens. Also,
just speaking real quick here about the Australian Open, my favorite right here is Rafael Nadal to come out and win this thing. Being the number one ranked player, I think this is his year to get an Australian Open done. He's been winning in straight sets, so that definitely favors him. He has been a little bit injury prone. Another favorite to obviously win the tournament is Djokovic. Can never count him out, but you can also can't count out Federer either. But to be honest, I think this is Nadal's tournament to lose. He's playing some of the best tennis of his life right now. We also have check out this match early Friday morning, 3 a.m. It's going to be Tsitsipas versus Ronick, a Canadian versus Greek matchup. Those two guys, not ranked very high. Stefanos is number 6 and Milos is 32, but that's going to be a great matchup. And then we have the two Spaniards. Friday, 7 p.m., mark it down, turn your TV on to ESPN, because you're going to want to watch Nadal play this other Spaniard. It's going to be phenomenal. Pablo Carreno, very, very good player. It's going to be a great matchup. These two are very familiar with each other, so it's going to be great. As we are speaking right now, as you said, Serena is playing. We are currently watching it, folks. She is down 6-4 in the first set and just broke in a deuce to get back to 5-5, serving to go 6-5 here in the second set. This is a very important set for Serena. She needs to win this to, obviously stay alive, because they only play 3 sets at the women. Also, 7 p.m., a third-round matchup tomorrow. John Isner versus Stan Wawrinka. That's going to be a great matchup, Core. Wawrinka was at one point ranked in the top 4 in the world. He sneaked up there during the Federer, that Federer stage where he was not playing a lot of tournaments, and trying to rest up an injury, I believe. But gotta watch that matchup there at 7 between Isner and Wawrinka. That's gonna be a great one.
Yeah, and I mean, again, with the Australian Open, it's going to roll all the way through. So I mean, we've got. You've got a lot of tennis. You've got tomorrow, you got Saturday, and you got Sunday. So a lot of tennis. Something else to keep an eye on this weekend here is you've got the Pro Bowl. The Pro Bowl obviously coming in before the Super Bowl. So you've got all the players outside of the Chiefs and the 49ers. So congratulations to those two franchises and organizations.
You know what I like about the Pro Bowl? Just real quick, what I like about it is that they do that they do keep the teams. They move this Pro Bowl to before the weekend before the Super Bowl. I like that move. I like them keeping the players who are playing in the Super Bowl out of the Pro Bowl. You know why I like that? It gives that other guy that Pro Bowl nomination. I like that, because these guys are already playing for the top prize. Why not give that other, the other guy who deserves it just as much as him? I like that.
Yeah, the Pro Bowl, and obviously tonight we're talking on Thursday night. You've got the Pro Bowl skills competition going on right now as well. So that's always something fun to kind of keep an eye on here. Those are really the two main things we've got. Obviously, we're in the heart of college basketball. We're in the heart of college basketball, so you've got a lot of Big Ten matchups, a lot of SEC matchups, all the big teams in play this weekend. Not any really one game that really sticks out to me really so far from college basketball. Obviously, still a little too early to really kind of get the tourney fever going. But a lot of matchups.
That's a month. That's a month and a half away, man. And let me tell you, folks, tourney fever is something that you definitely want to catch. It's the best time. I know personally, I have taken the first 2 days off of the tournament already scheduled it off work. I'm watching basketball 2 days straight. It's going to be amazing. Best time of the year if you're a basketball fan. Cory, don't mean to step on your toes here, man, but there's actually another big thing happening on Sunday. There's a big event happening on Sunday in the wrestling world.
Oh, yeah, as well. That did slip my mind here, obviously. We do also have, obviously, from the WWE, we have the Royal Rumble. Nick, I'm going to turn it over to you to kind of talk about that, because I know, obviously, wrestling is a little bit more home to you than it is me. I'm a little newer to the wrestling game, but I do enjoy it.
Yeah, so if you're not familiar with the Royal Rumble, it's a 30-man match where two wrestlers start in the ring, and then I think it's a minute and a half an hour, a minute, we get another competitor comes in until there's one man standing. All 30 men could be in the ring at the same time. You cannot see that, but it will, one man standing at the end of the match gets a guaranteed world championship match at WrestleMania main event. Then they recently entered a women's Royal Rumble match as well, so the winner of the women's match also gets a championship match at WrestleMania for a women's world championship. So those are the two big matches that are really happening on the card. And here in a minute I'll go over so far who has been entrants into the Royal Rumble as of right now. But just to finish out the card, we have the Fiend Bray Wyatt entering as the Universal Championship on SmackDown versus Daniel Bryan in a strap match. So if you don't know what that is, they are literally going to be strapped together by the wrist to fight it out. So that's going to be an awesome match to watch. Then we have Becky Lynch versus Asuka in a falls count or in a singles match for the Raw Women's Championship. That's going to be a phenomenal match, hopefully. Roman Reigns is going to be facing off versus King Corbin early in the night in a Falls Count Anywhere match. And then we have Shorty G, also known as Chad Gable. I'm going to call him by Chad Gable because I don't like Shorty G. Don't like that gimmick, Core. I don't like it. I think it's stupid. So versus Sheamus in a singles match, Sheamus is probably going to win that. And then we have Bayley as a SmackDown Women's Champion facing off against Lacey Evans. And then we also have Andrade versus Humberto Carrillo for a singles match for the United States Championship. So those is what's been announced so far. Your men's entrance already announced for the Royal Rumble is Roman Reigns, AJ Styles, Eric Rowan, Randy Orton, Rey Mysterio, Rick Cockett as one of my favorites, Y2J, Chris Jericho. Just drink it in, man. Would say Rick Cockett, also known as Ricochet, Drew McIntyre, Elias, King Corbin, Dolph Ziggler, Otis, Tucker, Rusev, Bobby Lashley, Aleister Black, Buddy Murphy, Braun Strowman, Shinsuke, Seth Rollins, Kevin Owens, Samoa Joe, Kofi Kingston, Big E, and R-Truth have announced. Brock Lesnar is also entering the Royal Rumble. He said he's going to be going in as number 1 as the WWE Champion to prove that nobody else in the roster can stand up to him. Hopefully he doesn't win and challenge himself to a match at WrestleMania. That'd just be stupid. WWE, if you do that, I've lost all faith in your creative. Being a fan of wrestling for a while, I just can't imagine you guys doing something like that. That's just ridiculous. The Royal Rumble has always been, Corey, that match has always been an opportunity for somebody who may not get that title opportunity to have that title opportunity and to go to WrestleMania. That's what that match has always been. Or, somebody who's maybe been down, Stone Cold, HBK, all these guys, all the past winners. That was their way of getting to WrestleMania and their opportunity for a championship. I would hate to see Brock Lesnar, a champion, win the Royal Rumble and then challenge himself. That'd be stupid. It's a waste of the match. If you were going to do that, you might as well not even had it to begin with. That's my opinion. There have been some rumors as men's Royal Rumble surprise entrants, because they always give us a few of those every year. Some former superstars come back. This is the best one that I've heard coming out. He has been officially cleared by not only his personal doctors, from my understanding, but also WWE doctors, to return to in-ring competition since his neck surgery earlier last decade. The one and only rated R superstar, Edge, is rumored to be a surprise entrant in this year's Royal Rumble. Cory, I know I've talked a lot here, but I got to tell you, he was always one of my favorites. And to see Edge back in that ring and his music hit during that Royal Rumble, oh man. Let me tell you something. When we're watching that Sunday night, I'm going to lose it if Edge's music hits. I'm going to lose it like I did when The Rock returned to WrestleMania. Going to lose it. Not many women have on their match. It's Charlotte Flair, Alexa Bliss, Nikki Cross, and Sarah Logan and Natalya. Just if you're a wrestling fan, this is definitely one of the most exciting pay-per-views. It's a long one. Next to WrestleMania, this is probably the second longest pay-per-view they have of the year. But watch it. If you're a wrestling fan, if you're not, this is a great time to get into it, because this is what will set you up for WrestleMania season. And then you'll be right into all the storylines for WrestleMania. Then you can kick off the new WWE wrestling year with us all. So check it out. Always subscribe on the WWE Network. It is free if this is your first time subscribing it. So you would get the Royal Rumble match free. It is only $10 a month, and you get every pay-per-view on it. So you get WrestleMania, you get all of them. So definitely check that out.
Yeah, I really am looking forward to that as well. Thank you for bringing that up. I did kind of forget about that one, but that's all I've got for the weekend watch. Obviously this week is been, a fun week in sports. Obviously a lot we've caught up on here. But again, I still like our shout-outs here. So who you got this week, Nick? Who's your shout-out for the week? I was going
back and forth, but as we were talking about it earlier on the Kansas State-Kansas, what was going on in their brawl, I kind of had a flashback to the clip where I saw fans trying to separate the fight once it broke out into like that little stand area for those floor seaters. I want to give a shout out to all those fans that were sitting in the stands that broke that up. Not standing for it, not trying to, have that be a part of the game. Kudos to all of them. Shout out to all of them who tried to break that up as soon as it started happening. You guys are the real heroes.
All right. And my shout-out, I kind of told you who my shout-out was going to be earlier, and I kind of changed my mind here. When you didn't pick it, I kind of wanted to go for it. One thing we didn't talk about this week that did happen in sports, and my shout-out's going to go to Luke Kuechly. You kind of said it earlier. Obviously, 513 Sports Attack, we are 513. 513 kid went to St. Xavier High School in Cincinnati, Ohio here. Making a smart decision. Again, one of the better players we have in the National Football League, if not the best linebacker, one of the best. After 8 years, calling it a career, saying there's a time to walk away, and this is my time. So, good for you for walking away from the game before you get more injured than you've already gotten so far. My shout-outs to you being a homegrown Cincinnati boy here. Obviously, congratulations to you on a wonderful NFL career.
I couldn't agree with you more. Watching Luke Kuechly play this season and throughout his career, hats off to you, man. You've done what's best for you, and none of us and nobody can really fault you for that, Your retirement speech was phenomenal. I think he said it all, Core. He really did. Well, that's all we have for you guys here. As always, for all your Ohio State needs, check out our sister podcast, the OHIO podcast. Can be found on Podbean and iTunes and wherever you get your podcast needs.
And always do not forget to look us up on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, or Spotify, or anywhere else you get your podcast needs. We are on there. Just search 513 Sports Attack. Also, don't hesitate, or if you're on Facebook or Instagram, please check us out at 513 Sports Attack. Also, if you have any questions for us or would like any topics for us to discuss or tackle, please reach out to us at the 513sportsattack at gmail.com.
Thanks for listening, guys. We appreciate y'all. One love.